guys, what's up? Welcome back to Relationships, Romance, and Propaganda Podcast. I have to make sure I say the podcast. It's Imani, Shakur, Rachel K. Burke, film director, author, actress. These are her books, Love Bites and Sound Bites, a rock and roll love story. You can get these on Amazon. Google it. She's an amazing author and an actress. All that good stuff. We are the sexiest relationship podcast on the planet. We talk about it all. And the first thing we're talking about today for our show, and this show is for the 20th, January 20th, right? Yeah. We're going to talk about how to get through breakups. Don't forget to subscribe on ISENT Group Digital, and you can get us everywhere you get your podcasts. No matter where you stream your podcast, we are there. Give us some likes, some stars, some thumbs up. Thank you in advance. And once again, Happy New Year. It's 2020. Rachel, let's get it.
All right.
You know what I mean? rptalktruth@gmail.com is the email in case you want to email us something. And we will be replying to those emails. Yeah. And you know what's funny? When we did Does Everyone Have a Soulmate? We had almost 7,000 views on that. And a lot of people had stuff to say. Yeah. And the funny thing about it is I promoted that the way I promote everything else. Mm-hmm. I didn't do anything different. But for some reason, it just took off. People was really interested in that subject.
One, and you had promoted your other podcast video too, and it was like about the same.
Yeah, but I did the exact same thing that I always do.
Interesting.
Same amount of money, everything.
Well, that's funny.
Same exact thing. I have a set thing that we do every month because it gets so expensive.
It's like is it the, because I think a lot of stuff comes into play too. Like, is it the time of year?
Yeah.
Like, is everyone
maybe because of the end of the year, everybody was home
everybody's
chilling. Yep.
Chilling, they're not working.
I promoted it right after Thanksgiving. Christmas to New Year.
I've noticed that with book sales too. I released a book around Christmas time once. And I didn't sell a lot, and I didn't want to do it. And I said to my publisher, I was like, around Christmas time, people are busy. Like, they're not, like, they've kind of got all their shopping done. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, I know. I wonder, is it the topic? Is it the time of year?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a combo.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I was like, whoa. And we gained a lot more subscribers too. So we're almost at 1,000, and we will get there. Remember I said it.
Yeah, we're almost there.
We're going to get there for a fact. Anyway, guys, we're going to talk about how to get through breakups. One of our shows, I can't remember which one it was. I talked about how I was in a new relationship.
Yeah. I think our last few.
It was the last few?
Yeah.
Well, now I'm not in a relationship. And Rachel is laughing at me. And it's funny. And you know what's funny? And I'm not here to throw anyone under the bus by any means. I'm not bitter. I kind of did this post on social media where I said, it wasn't my time. I'm not going to hate. I'll just wait. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that's a really good thing to do. Don't hate, just wait.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. And what I have to actually say about the whole thing, Rachel, is everyone is allowed to change their mind and feel different.
Of course.
But I think the travesty is, and I can say this to you because you're a spiritual person, not everyone is when you meet someone and the universe shows you signs that you're in the right thing.
Right.
When the universe does show you signs, do you acknowledge them or do you ignore them? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Crispy brought up a good point when I was telling him about this breakup. He goes, man, based on what you're telling me, it sounds like there weren't any red flags, but there were a few yellow flags.
Yeah.
And he said, you and Rachel should talk about that because you guys never talk about yellow flags.
Oh.
And to me, a yellow flag doesn't mean that you run and go away.
Okay.
And the only reason why in this situation, after I saw the yellow flags, I didn't run and go away. I mean, it was a lot of reasons.
Give me an example of a yellow flag.
Perfect example of a great yellow flag is how she said she wasn't comfortable with me saying, I like to treat my lady like a queen.
Right.
I had never heard that before in my life.
Okay.
Every woman my entire life would always want to be treated like a queen, no matter what your race. And I was used to dating white, but mostly.
Right.
But I dated a couple of Latin girls before.
And also going back to spiritual stuff too, and I didn't want to say this to you at the time because I'm trying to be supportive, but like Aquarius and Capricorn, no, dude.
Yeah.
No. Like generally Capricorns date other Capricorns because, they kind of speak the same language, right? Remember when Kelsey was on and she said, if you don't date your compatible signs, you don't really speak the same language.
Right.
Because I'm not supposed to be compatible with Capricorns either, and I've dated 3 of them. And it's like, it never...
We always attract what we're not supposed to do that. But if I could add to what you're saying, though, I read a lot about it after I got this phone call from her, and it actually does work, and here's why. With Aquarius and Capricorn. Because remember how you gave me that thing? You said, we want to be in Indonesia while we... What was that saying you said?
Yeah. You want, like, so Aquariuses are monogamous. So you want someone to talk to every day, even if you're on a trip in Indonesia.
Right.
Yeah.
So...
Because you like your space.
So it works because we like our space.
Right.
And Caps don't, they like to be avoided.
They like their space.
And Aquariuses don't like to be smothered or held down.
And that's why
So that's one of the reasons why it actually does work.
And that's why I work with them for so long, to an extent.
Yeah.
Because I'm very independent too.
Right.
The problem, though,
and that's why Libras and Aquariuses get along too. It's one of our best matches.
Right. We're probably better than us Capricorns.
Yeah.
But the end result of that, of being with the Capricorn, a lot of times Capricorns date each other, because the thing is, the end result is, it's not always great, because at the end of the day, you and I, we like to communicate, right?
Yep.
And there's not a lot of, there's not communication with them.
I read about it. Yep. It's not.
So my,
it's so strange.
Yeah. So that, I mean, it's like, though some of the factors are there, right?
Yeah.
The independence and all that. But at the end of the day, and so on our next episode, we're going to talk about attachment style. So I'll get a little more
deeper
into
that. Yeah.
But, at the end result is you need to communicate with your partner.
Yep.
My mom is a Capricorn and married a Capricorn. They used to communicate by email when they were mad at each other. I'm not kidding. They would fight via email.
God.
And I'm like, you live in the same house. And her husband would be in the other room emailing her. And I'm like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
That's what,
Because they're not good with confrontation. They're not good with communication.
Yep. Not at
So
all.
the thing is, we're both independent, but like Libra and Aquarius, we'd be a better match, because not only are we independent, but we also want to communicate, right?
Yeah.
And we can communicate with each other. Whereas it's not going to be there with a Cap. Like they're going to be good with another Capricorn or someone that's a little bit more avoidant. Yeah.
Yep. That's so true. Everything you're saying is exactly the stuff she had. Yeah. That she had some issues with.
So, it can work until it doesn't work.
Right. It can work until it doesn't work.
There's some good, I mean, I stayed with my ex, 4.5 years, but.
You know what? Because I'm such a spiritual person, had I not seen all the coincidences and signs from the universe, I probably wouldn't have even done it. But it was too many things that was right about she and I. Well, I mean, way too many things,
if you just really, if you really like someone and you really love them, you want to make that work. Because, and this is the problem, and we'll talk about this in today's episode when we talk about breakups, because the problem I have is that I don't like a lot of people, right? Like I'm pretty selective. So when I do really like someone, love someone, in a relationship with someone, even if I'm like, oh God, this isn't going to go anywhere, right? Like I knew with my ex for years, he was not my person, right? I wasn't going to end up with him. I can't cut it. I cannot, like some people can just cut it off and be like, okay, you know what? We don't want the same things. Let's just cut it.
That's what Caps do.
Right.
They just,
But my ex actually, he didn't cut it with me until he found somebody else.
Right.
So, and the problem with that is then, because I can break up with them, and I did this with my Aquarius ex in Boston too. I can break up with them, but I can't cut it for good. So it's like, so then you get into that fake relationship territory, because it's like, I'll break up with them, but then, a few weeks later, it's like, oh, I miss you. I miss you too. Maybe we should get together. Then you start sleeping together. You start hanging out again. And then and it's funny, my friend said this to me the other day. She goes, then you get into this, like, it's like a fake relationship. And I said, yes, I did this with my recent ex for 2 years. Yeah. Like we just kept talking all the time, hanging out. And it's like weird because you feel like you're still in a relationship, but you're not. But I can't cut it. Yeah. Which is, it's a problem. You know? Because the funny thing is,
had I rehashed what I knew about Caps, this probably wouldn't have happened, because I would have treated her completely different. And I know it would have been going outside of myself.
But you don't want to do that because
I would have treated her completely different.
You have to, and we'll talk about this when we talk about attachment styles, because everybody needs to stay true to themselves.
Who they are, exactly.
Because all you're gonna do is you're going to postpone the inevitable. So if
Right.
you're, if somebody is not the same type as you, and you start playing a game or treating them a certain way,
right.
all you're doing is like postponing the inevitable. Where you're
that
gonna,
makes sense.
You're gonna keep them. You're gonna be playing a game your whole relationship.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And you're not staying true to yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You want somebody who's the same type as
you. That makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And like I said, before we were rolling, the other two Capricorns I was with did the exact same thing. I swear to God, nothing different.
Yeah.
My daughter, who's a Capricorn, who just turned 15,
yeah,
did the exact same thing to her boyfriend.
Yeah.
That's just who they are.
Yeah, and I'll talk about this when
my 15-year-old daughter is a true Capricorn to the hill.
When we talk about avoidance, I'll get into it. But basically, like, an attachment style, one of them is avoidance.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about this next week, which is going to be a good episode.
Yeah.
And because that's what they do, is they'll push you away when you get too close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
My ex did it with me too. Like,
it's funny.
3 months in, I love you. 4 months in, I don't know if I can do this. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
You loved me last month. Like, you were totally in love with me.
Yeah, that's the same way I felt. Yeah, exactly.
They make excuses. Oh, I don't know if I want
That's the same way I felt.
I don't know if I want
it. From
Yeah.
plane tickets to meet friends to just cut like straight, like snip.
I know.
And it's funny, my daughter happened to be here when she called me.
Yeah.
And when me and my daughter was talking about, she was like, "Yeah, Dad, that's how we are." Like, that's what my daughter
Let me ask
said.
you a question. Did you sense it was coming, or did it come out of nowhere?
Of course I sensed it was coming.
Okay.
As spiritual as I am.
Right.
Of course. Absolutely.
Did you start getting that stomach ache, like something's wrong?
No, well, I knew from, I'm not dumb. But, you even though you know what you know that you always think maybe the person, no, that's not what I thought.
Okay.
You sometimes you kind of think, because everything else is so right outside of the essence of what we're talking about, maybe this person will take heed and try to make some improvement, which she did say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think ultimately she just couldn't do it. Because we would talk about these things we're talking about.
Yeah.
And she would say, I'm going to be better at that and try to fix that and change that. But I think ultimately she couldn't. Because at heart, that Capricorn thing, and I hate, and some of our listeners may say, what does the zodiacs have to do with it? Well, people do some studying. It does. It totally does.
But also, like, if you listen to our episode on astrology, we had to do 2 episodes because it was a long one. But if you listen to it, and like, let's say somebody's listening to this and they're like, I'm a Capricorn. I don't do that. Take into consideration that everyone has a sun sign and a moon sign and a rising sign as well. Right. So you have other factors that come into play. So not everyone is going to be cookie cutter.
Exactly.
The same, but
generally speaking, though, it's pretty much on the head.
Yeah, because your sun sign is your personality.
Yeah.
So because he and I have both dated Caps, and it's
consistent.
Pretty much consistent.
It's pretty much consistent.
Yeah. Even other Cap, because my mom and stepdad are Caps. Like, I know a lot of them.
It's pretty consistent. That's how they roll. Yeah, it's interesting, man. But anyway, wish her the best. Great family. I still see him in the gym. We cool. Hopefully she and I will be cool and cordial in the gym. And wherever we see each other, it's a small town that we live in.
Yeah, that's good.
Which we talked about when we met in person after the breakup, just being cordial and being friends. And she said she needed a couple of weeks to figure that part out, but sure, she's not gonna treat me like a bitch in the gym and stuff like that. Yeah. Which is cool. It was because no reason for that. I didn't do anything to her.
That's good.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
You're handling it better than I would. I get bitter.
Yeah. I was shocked and surprised, and I really liked her. So it was more of that. Like, this is surprising after everything that we went through and did. And it was just shocking. You know what I mean? I think it was more of that for me.
Yeah. It's just,
That's all.
You're getting too close.
Yeah, man.
Push you away.
Get this. So I know this all bleeds into our topic. We're talking about going through breakups. So you guys just heard how I went through mine and how I handled it. And, we still cool. I wish her the best. But so I have some stuff. I need another cue card. You guys could excuse me because I'm glad we're talking about breakup. This is good. So Yeah, let's keep going, right? This
All
is
right.
good. Yeah.
Well, I think
How do you handle breakups? That's what I want to know. Maybe I should ask
I'm a
Rachel the question.
psycho. And people don't expect that of me because I'm usually pretty laid back and I'm pretty chill when I'm secure in a relationship. But breakups make me psycho.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah.
In what way? Please expound.
Well, I think men and women handle breakups differently.
Uh-huh.
So, and it's funny, a guy friend of mine said this to me once. He said, men are hunters. So we'll just rebound hard. Like we're hunting for the next one. We'll go out there and we'll just, rebound with girl after girl after girl.
Yeah.
But what happens with that, I call it the 2-month rule, is that generally with men, they'll rebound hard for like a month and a half, 2 months.
Right.
And all of a sudden, 2 months later, they'll go, oh my God, my relationship's over. Oh no. And then, and a lot of times it's actually the men who have broken up with the woman. And they're, I shouldn't really say men either. I mean, I think it could be either or. But this is an example that a guy friend gave to me because he said, women, we kind of do it in a bit of a healthier way where we grieve first. And I'll grieve hard. I mean, for my worst was about 2 months where I couldn't even eat. I lost like 20 pounds. I mean, I was horrible. Like I couldn't even get out of bed. I was so depressed. My last one took me a year. I literally was bonkers. Social media stalking my ex and his new girlfriend for like a year.
Okay, guys, can you guys believe a girl this fine is saying this right now?
And he wasn't anything. Like I was the.
I'm sorry. This is funny to hear.
Sorry, I was the better one out of us two. Okay, I'm just gonna throw that out there right now.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I'm sweating this guy who was like nothing going on, really.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But it was just. And I've talked about this before, but I think it was just the way that he cut it off. Because I don't handle that well. Like I want to, because I feel almost like you died. It's like you were, I talked to you every day and I told you everything and you were my best friend. I think if we had stayed friends and he was just like, I met someone else, I'm going to date her, whatever. I think if we had stayed friends, I would have handled it better. But because he just cut me off, like it's so cold. It feels like, did I mean nothing to you?
That's how I felt with this. Yep, that's how I felt.
It's so hurtful.
That's how I felt. I was like,
And I just felt so replaced overnight. It was like, oh, okay, all of a sudden you just filled in that space. It's like you called me every day and all of a sudden you just have a new girl that you're filling that space. And now you're posting all these pictures with her. You're not considering my feelings, how that's going to make me feel.
Right.
I went bonkers, and I'll talk about this in a little bit. I actually had to have a hypnotherapy session.
Wow.
I'll get into it. But so, going back to what men and women, how they differ, right? So, because I remember whenever my best friend got dumped back in the day, and I said, give him 2 months. He's going to come back because they were together 8 years and I knew he'd be back. And she was just heartbroken, like sobbing. I'm not even kidding. A month of 3 weeks later, he showed up at her work and was like, I made a huge mistake. It's like the 2-month rule because every ex that I had too that would dump me would come back 2 months later and be like, what did I do? Because what men do is they'll rebound, they'll find someone else. And I had another guy that did this to me. Actually, he tried to get his ex back. I was his rebound girl. He was texting me all the time. 2 months later, crickets. And I go, what's going on? And he was like, I just realized my relationship's over. And he tried to get this girl back forever. And he was the one who said that to me. I go, what happened there? And he said, because we're men, we're hunters. So we just we go out to find the next girl. Like, I'm over it. I'm fine. Fine. And all of a sudden it hits us at one point. It hits you that your relationship's really over. I don't think that will happen with you because you weren't with her for that long.
Right. I was just thinking about that.
Yeah. Because, obviously the longer you're with somebody, the more emotionally invested you get. Right. And it actually happened with my ex. He didn't reach out, but a few months after he was with that girl, I told you this, he texted me a happy birthday, and then he started watching all of my Instagram stories, and they broke up a few months into it. So I think that happened with him. I think because what women do is healthier. What we do is we grieve immediately, and then and you get it. You process those emotions, you get them out, And then by the time you grieve and you get over it, you're healthy to date someone else, right? Because you've gone through that. You're not just like on to the next one. The problem is when you relationship hop like that, right? Like when you hop from one to the next, you don't take that time to grieve your old relationship. So what my ex in Boston did, and this is the guy I told you that cheated on me. Mm-hmm. He was in an 8-year relationship, went right from her to me. And I knew, I was like, this isn't healthy. You were with her for a long time.
Yeah.
This is, I and you might be different, but I always call Aquarius serial monogamous because my dad does it too. My ex did it. It's like they will hop from relationship to relationship because they like being with somebody. The problem was my ex did not grieve his past relationship. We just jumped right in. And 2 months into it, 2 months, he cheated on me with his ex. Because it hit him that was over. Right. And he started having second thoughts. So what
I wonder, go ahead, keep going.
So what I would say for men is don't do that. Don't rebound right away. Like don't jump right into, I mean, if it's a physical thing.
It's a physical thing that's different. Fine, but don't jump into an emotional thing away.
Yes. And last summer too, I dated a guy and we were both like each other's rebound, so it was okay. Mm-hmm. It was the 2-month rule again. And I didn't know because he was like, oh yeah, we've been broken up a few months. He made it seem like it was closer to 6 months. Mm-hmm. And then I go, they were living together. And I said, how long have you been at this place? And he was like, oh, almost 3 months. And I was like, oh my God, he's only been living on his own for like 2 months. Mm-hmm. We dated for, like a month. And all of a sudden, this was back when Instagram got rid of it. For us stalkers, but this was when they had that feed where you could see what other people were liking.
Right, you can't see it anymore.
They got rid of it.
They got rid of that. You can't see it anymore. I was looking like a few weeks ago, and I'm like, you can't see that anymore.
No, because I'm dating a guy now, and when he's on Instagram, I'm like, I want to see what he's liking, and I can't see it anymore. And it's my fault because I updated it. I never should have updated. But I looked at this guy and because he went quiet on me after a month and he started following his ex again and liking all of her things. And I was like, he's doing the 2-month thing.
Right.
Yeah. So that happened. So I would say, don't, either men or women, doesn't matter. Don't jump right from a relationship to dating somebody. Take at least, I would say like 3 to 6 months to yourself. Grieve that, feel those feelings, feel that pain, and then you'll actually be ready to date someone else. Because then otherwise you're just hurting someone's feelings. You know what I mean? Like you're just leading them on and you're like setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, it's funny because what I want to say to our listeners, sometimes this show is like therapy for me because as I'm listening, I'm asking myself, why do I get over people so easily?
Well, it wasn't that long, which is good.
Right. No, but I'm not even talking about this situation. Okay. In this situation, you're right. It was only 3 months. Even though we had a really deep connection and we got really connected and our families got together, it was really deep. You know what I mean? So I think, you saw my feed.
You can get close in a short amount of time.
Yeah, you can, the way we did, you know? But even with this, I think you're right. It is easy because it's 3 months. But I was asking myself, I was thinking about another ex, this teacher that I dated here when I first moved here. Okay. And we were together for almost 8-9 months, Yeah. She was an Aquarius like me. Okay. And we got along really well. And I handled the breakup with her so well. I was completely fine. I mean, and I fell for this girl. We loved each other but I still was okay. It was weird.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah, it's she was different. Out at the club kissing other guys. I'm watching. Yeah, I'm there, and I didn't care. I was just like, I love you. Go do what you need to do to be happy.
Isn't that crazy how you react differently to different people? Because this is what I couldn't understand with my ex in Boston. Right, I did the same stupid thing that I did with my recent ex, where I did the fake relationship thing. It's like we were living together. He drove me crazy. I broke up with him. Yeah. Moved out on my own. Yeah. But then, of course, a couple weeks later, I'm like, I miss you. We start hanging out again. Yeah. And this is my cycle. I can't cut it off. So we start hanging out again. And then the guy always meets someone else. And they have to cut it off while we're doing the fake relationship thing. So he actually did that with me. He met another girl. And they started dating. So he cut it off. And I swear to God, Imani, I was sad for a couple days. Mm-hmm. And then I was over it. And I bumped into them at a concert. We invited them to a party. I hung out with them.
Why and I'm is it like that? You know what I mean? And what I want to say, since we're talking about how to get through breakups, how I got through the breakup with this teacher is, I don't know, guys. Like I loved her in a certain way that I was okay with her breaking up and wanting to move on and wanting to just explore and be free. I actually supported it, which was strange. And I loved the shit out of this girl. You know what I'm saying? It was so weird.
But I wasn't.
And I was cool.
But my recent ex, when he found another girl, I was bonkers for a year. I was like rooting for them to break up, like wishing bad things on them.
Yeah.
I don't know why I handled that so much differently than my ex in Boston.
Other people. Yeah.
So it's either one of two things. I've analyzed the heck out of this. It's either one of two things. It's either I loved my recent ex a lot more than I loved my ex in Boston, which I do think I did, because my ex I was only with in Boston for like a year and a half. My recent ex was like 4.5, right? That's a longer amount of time. I really loved him. Also, though, I think social media played a factor because my ex in Boston did not have social media. The girl he was dating did not have social media. So I didn't have to see it. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I think with my recent ex too, I think not only did I love him more, but this girl he started dating would post pictures every single weekend of everything they were doing. And I'm nosy. I don't have that discipline to not look. So I'm on my phone refreshing her feed like a psychopath every 30 minutes, watching everything you do. So I think it maybe is a combination of those two things. I think if I didn't have to see it, it would have been different.
Social media. I mean, you always could not follow the person though, but
I don't.
Right.
I don't. She's public. Yeah. No, I downloaded an app where you can watch people's stories anonymously.
Oh, you can?
Yes. So that I could watch all her stories and see everything that they did. Yeah, I was a lunatic.
Interesting.
I know. It's like, why do you handle it so much differently with
different people?
Because I wasn't bitter with my ex in Boston. With him, I was so bitter. But I also think, too, third factor, is that my ex in Boston communicated with me. He told me he met somebody else. And we stayed friends. And I think that, for me, was different, right? Because it doesn't feel like he died. It's like, you know what? He was honest with me. My Capricorn ex just cut me off. Stopped calling me. If I'd text him or call him, it was like he'd cut me. You know, it was like, oh, I'm at work, can't talk. Wouldn't call me back. So I knew something was up. But he just cut me off. We never had closure. We never had that.
Capricorns do that though, like we talked about.
Yeah, it's cold.
It's cold. They cold.
Guess what Kelsey always used to say? Kelsey dated one too, and she goes, "They're cold."
You wonder what's funny? I had a conversation with her a week or two before, and I said, "You're like very rigid." I was like, "You're not cold, but you're not warm either." I was like, "You're very."
I'm writing that down
told
for
her
the
that.
next episode, because avoidance, that's one of the things that's rigid. My ex was so rigid too.
That.
It was like, and they make up these rigid rules to follow. All it is it's a sign of trying to push you away. Yeah. It's a sign of being non-committal.
Yeah.
My Cap ex was hot and cold. So he would be cold and then super sweet, and then cold, and then super sweet. And that's really toxic, because you get sucked into that. Right. Because you're like, I know there's this nice, sweet person in there
I could see, but
they're here 50% of the time. And it's like, for me, I need you here 100% of the time. Right, yeah. You know?
Fire signs, you do.
Yeah. It doesn't work. Like, they need to be with somebody who's also kind of has a cold side too, I think. Yeah,
and it's funny, like, I don't, when it comes to getting through breakups, I'm not really the type to just jump and just be with someone else emotionally. To me, the physical aspect is something different, right? So we all have needs. So you break up with a person at a certain amount of time, and then you go, okay, this is where I know my threshold is, where I need to just be physical with another woman.
Right.
So for me, it's more like that. Like,
that's okay. But as long as that woman...
But I'm not getting emotionally attached with someone.
But as long as that woman's okay with it.
Yeah, as long as that woman's... Of course.
So that's, that's...
And I don't play games when it comes to stuff like that. I'm not going to fool someone to fall for me knowing I'm just here for something physical. That's something I'm not going to do.
But some people don't know that they're rebounding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The guy that actually we rebounded with each other last summer, he was actually, it was funny, he was on the Capricorn Aquarius line. So he had on the cusp, he had a little bit of both.
Because he was January going into February.
January, I think. 19th or 20th.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like on the cusp.
Going
But
into
he had
February,
kind
yeah.
of things of both too.
Yeah.
I think he was more Aquarius though.
Mm-hmm.
But he did that. He jumped right in with me. And I think he did really like me.
Mm-hmm.
I think he misjudged how ready he was.
Got you.
Because he did really like me. But I remember I had like that, you have that intuition that you don't listen to when you really like someone.
Right. Right. We all do it.
Yeah, because I met him. I didn't realize he'd only been on his own for like 2-3 months. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have jumped in the way I did. Mm-hmm. But we met, and it was like the red flags were all there that I did not listen to. So we met. We had this great first date that was 4 hours long. Mm-hmm. I mean, we just talked all night, kissed. It was great. But even when I kissed him, I felt like a resistance in my gut, right? It wasn't one of those like all-consuming kisses. It was a little bit of like a holding back feeling that I got. Yeah.
You the one that told me about the F yes rule. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it wasn't like an F yes completely.
Not on his, not on his side.
Not in that moment. Exactly. Yeah.
There was resistance,
and you could feel it.
I could feel it. Like something was up. So I didn't hear from him for 5 days, and I was like, "What the heck?" We had this amazing date that was like 4 hours.
Yeah.
And it was the day we met too, because we met through friends at this beach party. And he and I just left and went drinking and out to dinner all night. And it was like this amazing date. Like we just hit it off. From the get-go.
Like one of those instant dates we call it.
And I was like, how did I not hear from him for 5 days? Red flag number 2, right?
Yeah.
Number 1 was the kiss. Yeah. So finally he said, are you free for drinks this week? And I was like, oh, yeah.
I love the, oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, because I was like, where have you been for 5 days?
Yeah.
That's a long time to wait.
Yeah.
So once we actually went out, then we had this great time too. Mm-hmm. And I was, I said, what's up? Like, I didn't hear from you for 5 days.
Yeah.
I don't hear. I think he had a lot going on. His car got hit or something. I don't know. Excuses, whatever. It takes 2 seconds to send a text. I don't buy any of that crap. Mm-hmm. But after that, we had this great second date and he would text me. But then he would text me like all day long. And I just felt like red flag number 3, like this kind of feels like too much too soon. Okay. I would wake up to like every day a text, all day long texts. And I was like, this feels like too much too soon. And this was the guy that I had mentioned before that would be at my house like Friday to Monday. Mm-hmm. Like he would be like, let's go to dinner for Friday. He'd stay over Friday. And then Saturday he'd be like, oh, what are you doing? Let's go to the beach. We go to the beach. And then he'd be like, let's go get dinner and a movie. And then all of a sudden it's Monday morning, you know what I mean? Yeah. And he'd be at my house.
One of those extended dates, yeah.
But then what happened is after we did that, like the 4-day thing, he'd disappear for a week. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what's up? And then he said, I wanted to make sure that I really liked you for you. And I wasn't just jumping into something because I'm used to being with somebody, which is a very mature response, but you should have freaking communicated that to me and not disappeared for a week.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge red flag is like, you didn't communicate that to me. You disappeared. You didn't consider my feelings, right? Yeah. Not cool. So I gave him a second chance and then he did it again. And that was when he started following his ex again. And I went, done. Nope.
Yeah.
Not cool.
Wow.
So a lot of times I think people don't mean to rebound and hurt someone's feelings, right? Like you're saying, like if you're up front, like, hey, I just got out of something. I'm not looking for anything serious.
Yeah, exactly.
Just want to hook up, keep it casual. If you're up front about that, cool. But like, don't do what that guy did and pretend you're dating and you really like this person and you're so into them and then disappear. No, you
still have stuff to work out.
Yeah, or if you figure that out, if you're like, shoot, you know what? I kind of miss my ex. I kind of don't think I'm over it. Right. Communicate that to the person. Don't disappear because that's really hurtful. Like hurts people's feelings, because it makes us crazy. Because then I started feeling crazy. Yeah. And
I completely agree.
And that's why, and I'll talk about this too on next week's episode because they talk about the different attachment types and one of them is anxious. And that's what makes me anxious. It's like when I feel in my gut, you're pulling away. I know something's wrong and I get really anxious and I start watching my phone all the time. Like, did he text me? Did he text me? Did he call me? Why isn't he calling? What is he on social media?
When I had the flu, I felt it. I felt her pulling away. Yeah. Yeah, I felt it. Yeah, I was like, something's wrong.
But you probably don't do what I do. You probably don't go crazy.
No, I didn't go crazy. I was like, something's wrong.
Yeah, I go crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll like be checking if you're online. Like, what are you doing? Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I get that stomach ache. I don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm not bitter, I'll just do what I did before. So if we're friends on social media and I would check your stories or whatever, I would just do that what I would always do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not because I want to see what you're doing. I would do that anyway.
Right.
Now, if I'm bitter, I would have just blocked her. Like, for example, when I was getting over the breakup with my ex Kim before I moved here, when we broke up, I didn't even want to see none of that. So I blocked her on all the social media.
I can't do it.
See what I'm saying?
I know.
But if I'm not bitter and I'm like, okay, yeah, you kind of just called and dumped me, but I'm not upset. So I'm just gonna treat you the way I treated you before. So if I was already looking at your Instagram, I'm gonna still do that. That's how I am.
Yeah.
If I'm bitter though, like I was with my ex Kim, I cut it off. I don't even want to see. So I'm just the opposite.
I get bitter, but I can't cut it off. I still want because
I cut it off. I don't want to see.
Why don't you just block them?
Yeah, I block them from everything.
Because I want to see everything. But I think what it really was is the thing is when you go through a breakup.
Oh, real quick before you go.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'm gonna write this down.
Sorry, listeners.
Remember.
The same one Kim that I'm referring to, she just got engaged over the Christmas holiday.
Okay.
And I'm still friends with her aunt, uncle, sister, and they posted it and I saw the pictures.
You like it.
And I liked it and I said, hey, this is awesome. Say congrats.
Right.
Yeah, because because now I'm over the bitter. I still don't follow her on anything. But this was years ago, 2016. So I was in the right space where I was able to say congratulations to her. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. Because you have to be in the right space.
I got over it. I'm not bitter anymore.
So the thing is, what you do when you go through a breakup is you forget all the bad stuff and you start remembering all of the good.
Okay.
And this is what I would do through my cuckoo crazy last year. I forgot all of the reasons I broke up with my ex in the first place, right? And I did this years and years ago when I lived in Boston, my first like really bad heartbreak with the one where I didn't eat for like 2 months. I forgot that this guy was a total sociopath who was like emotionally abusive and everything, because all of a sudden you start remembering the good thing, but he was really affectionate and he was so sweet sometimes. Yeah. And I did this with my recent ex is I forgot, like, Rach, he stopped calling you on the weekends at one point. That's how much he couldn't communicate. He started thinking there was no future with us. And instead of telling me this, he stopped calling me on the weekends and told his kids we broke up. We didn't break up.
Wow.
And in my crazy brain, it's like I was so sad that he had moved on and was with a new person. It's like I forget all of that. The way he treated me like absolute crap. And I'm like, oh, but he was so, he gave such good hugs and he was so sweet and affectionate. And I forget, like, he bought a house without even asking you your opinion on it. Like, he had no future.
Yeah.
And you forget all that. So this is, it's a problem. And this is, the reason I say this is because I didn't block him because I forgot all the bad. And so in my crazy brain, I'm like holding out hope that they're going to break up. You know what I mean? And it's like, what is that going to do if they break up? Okay, we're going to get back together for a certain period only because I don't want him with somebody else. And then we're going to have all the same problems all over again. You know what I mean?
You can't really look at it like that.
No, but that's what I was doing.
That's what you were doing.
I wasn't blocking him because I was hoping they were going to break up.
Gotcha.
And then I could get him back. And then for what? Then you're in the same hamster wheel. What actually you should do, and I read this quote and I'm not, it's not verbatim, but essentially what it said, and Kim actually posted it, and I was like, oh my God, and I screenshotted it because I needed that at the time. And it basically said, when you go through change, it's going to be scary and you're going to want to return to your old patterns and your old life. Don't, because on the opposite side is where you're supposed to be. Right. And it's so true, because now that I'm on the other side of that, I'm like, oh my God, there's someone so much better for me. Yeah, of course. And there always is. And it wasn't him. And it always is someone so much better for you. But I get like because I don't like people often, when I do get attached to someone, I get really attached and I can't cut it off. Yeah. Even though I know they're no good for me. It's so hard for me to cut it off. And so I gotta get better at that. Poor Rachel. I gotta get better at that. It's terrible. This is what I'd like to read
for our audience. This is something I posted. You saw it already, but I want to just share it with our audience. And think about this: when someone breaks up with you, you could be the best thing to ever happen to someone, but if they aren't ready for you mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, your value will go unnoticed. And it's true.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
could be the best thing that happened to someone, but if they don't notice it, it just if they're not ready, they're not going to notice it.
Yeah.
And you belong with someone else who is ready, who does notice.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Or sometimes timing is off and you can meet back up later in life.
Yeah, that's true too.
So like I
totally agree with that.
I told you my mom married her ex-husband last summer.
I totally agree with that.
Because their timing was not good. They met, when they met, he was married. When they got married the first time, it was instant family. His kids were real little.
Yeah.
My brothers and sisters were real little. They didn't get to date. And so they end up having to get back together later in life when their kids are older. They're out of the house.
Yeah.
And it's so much different now, but that can happen. You can meet someone at the wrong time in your life. And, maybe the timing is off and you were meant to be together maybe later in life. Right. I want to say, I just want to say two more things and then I'm done.
Okay.
This is really hard to do. Try not to social media stalk them. You're good. You can.
Yeah, I'm good.
You're good at it. Like you'll block them.
Yeah,
I can't. I don't have that willpower. But it's not healthy, and all it did was made me feel worse. So I'd advise against that if you have the willpower.
Yeah.
I think everyone's different.
Just get off of it. Stop following them and stuff like that if it's going to bother you a lot.
Yeah, try not
if you can't handle it.
Because every time I would look, I would get a stomachache.
Yeah, see?
But I would still do it. It's like I'm
torturing myself.
It's
weird when you self-torture.
Right, like masochist.
When you're in situations like that. You know what I mean?
so this is what happened to me, and this is what actually helped me get through it, and it's a crazy story. So he got with this girl. I went bonkers, and I went through phases for a year. I was bonkers for like 2 months. Then I was okay. I dated the guy that we rebounded together. That didn't work out. Then I think when it was the fall and he started, like he texted me on my birthday, started watching my stories around the holidays. I think they had broken up. It got in my head again. So, and then when I saw they got back together, then I was like kind of bummed out again. The weirdest thing though is like after the holidays, I was okay. I went to a bunch of like Coachella, like those celebrity parties they had that my friend got me into. I did some ecstasy with the guy, the young guy that I hooked up with, and I got back and it's a combination of I think it was three things. I think it was the ecstasy took my serotonin. One. 2, it was the 1 year. It had been exactly 1 year from the year before when I found out, right?
Okay.
When we stopped talking. So you know how like your body can sense that stuff? I think that. And I think 3, you know how you can energetically sense when somebody moves on? So this was when she had moved in with him and around the time she got pregnant. So I must have sensed that it was like really, really over.
Yeah. And then
I woke up a couple days after this ecstasy party sobbing hysterically. Like I hadn't thought about him in months, and I went right back to cuckoo for like another 2 months. And I'm stalking them again, and I was like, "What happened?" I thought I was over this.
Yeah.
So what I did, I actually Googled, and I hope our episode helps some listeners here. I started Googling like how to get through breakups.
Okay. Yeah.
And I saw Katy Perry hired a hypnotherapist to help her get over her divorce. And like a couple other celebrities had too. And I found this article that this hypnotherapist guy had written who is actually in England. And I started looking up hypnotherapists because the reason I chose this guy, because there's some in LA that do it, but it was sort of like hoo-ha hypnotherapy, like picture yourself without them. And I was like, no. I want you to get rid of me romanticizing the good stuff. I want to remember those bad memories. I want to remember why I broke up with him in the first place. Because it's like your brain plays tricks on you, right? And you forget. I found this guy in the UK. He was the one who published the article about Katy Perry. What he does is he has you make a list of all like the good memories and the bad. Okay. And when he puts you under, he has you relive the bad memories.
Oh.
And I was like, he's my guy. So, and I spent a lot of time on this because he was like, I really want you to get into detail. Remember specific memories, how he made you feel.
Right.
And so because he's in England, we had to do a Skype session. His name's Chris Delaney. If anyone ever wants to look him up, he's in the UK. You can Google him. I think it was like $200 for like a 90-minute session.
Okay.
And the great thing about him was he said, if it doesn't work, I'll refund your money. And I was like, okay.
Interesting. That's cool.
It was
money back guarantee.
Yeah. And honest to God, I thought it was going to work right away. Like when
Yeah.
So the crazy thing was two things. First, he didn't really put me under all the way.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was going to be like sleeping and wake up and be over this guy. That's not what happened.
Right.
So I made a list, like I love guys that are like really affectionate and everything, all the things I liked about him. But then it was like the bad stuff. Like he would let his son talk back to me. He would make decisions without me. When I tried to talk to him, he would, I remember once he was like, why are you crying? And just left the room and like wouldn't even talk to me. Like it was horrible. Or like when we'd fight, he would just leave my house. Couldn't communicate. So I really, it helped me relive those. So what he does is he puts you in a relaxed state. The good memories, he has you like, he says, visualize them like in a picture frame and you push them away until you can't even feel them anymore, right? It's like you're kind of on the outside looking in.
Got you.
That's far away. That's not here. The bad memories, he goes through them. It kind of makes you relive them, right?
Yeah.
But he didn't. I think my expectations were different. I thought I was going to be all the way under and just wake up and feel good. So afterwards, he was like, how do you feel? And I was like, I feel the same, And he's like, okay. He's like, he goes, give it 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If in 2 weeks you're still thinking about him, I'll give you your money back or I'll give you another session. 2 days later, never thought about him again.
Serious.
We did it on a Friday. Saturday, I still felt weird. Sunday, I felt a little less weird. Monday, I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I'm fine.
Wow.
And then the good thing is he really did get in my head because I started remembering the bad things that I had forgotten about.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh my God, he was a horrible person. Like he was horrible to me.
When you start thinking about it. Yep.
But your brain does, when you go through breakups, it plays tricks on you. And you start like, there's a reason everybody breaks up.
Yeah.
There's a reason. It's not, like no perfect couple is going to break up.
Yeah.
So, but your brain is going to trick you. Yeah. And so.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes it happens years later. I mean, I met a guy over at Miramonte and he told me, he said, man, we got into this conversation and he said, dude, I was with someone 29 years and we have 2 kids together and she just called and broke up with me.
Wow.
Yeah. And
my dad left my stepmom after 22 years.
Yeah.
Just moved out one day.
It could just it could happen.
But
whether it's 3 months like me or whether it's 30 years, dude, people change their minds and they have the right to.
Yeah, but
even if you think,
but I think it's been building. But I didn't know it, and my stepmom didn't know it. Because what happens is what happened in my dad's case was I think he started planning. I think he met someone else, honestly. The woman he's with now. I think he met someone else. I think I think he was planning when my little brother went to college.
So then
that was his out. Because he told me 6 months before he moved out, he was like, I'm gonna figure out what to do when your brother goes to college. I said, what do you mean? Like you're gonna leave my stepmom? And he goes, well, yeah. I was like,
well, yeah. This was the Capricorn?
No, my dad's
Aquarius.
Because he had another chick lined up.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
my dad cannot be alone. But he didn't tell my stepmom yet. He told my sister and I.
Right.
And then we had to go there for my brother's graduation, pretend everything's fine.
Oh my goodness.
And it's like, okay, like the clock's ticking here. And my stepmom called me on Father's Day a month later. She said, did you talk to your dad today? And I said, no, he didn't answer his phone. She goes, well, he moved out like 2 weeks ago. And I was like,
oh my goodness.
He did?
Yeah, but you already knew he was going to do it.
So what he started doing was being mean to her. She goes, yeah, he's been weird. He's been mean. He's like been distancing himself. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden we got in a fight. And he said something about like moving out when your brother went to college. My stepmom wasn't taking any BS. And she goes, you don't have to wait for him to go to college. You can leave now. And he just off he went.
Go to college. You can leave now.
Yeah, but she But she was actually crazy for 2 years. And I understand it because I'm like, if I was crazy for a year after like 4.5 years, wait, 2 years? I'll give you 2 years. You can be crazy for 2 years.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing where it's like he just cut her off. And immediately went to someone else and moved out, and that's it's so devastating.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, after that long, man, it can be. You know, I want to say one more thing before we leave. So, talking about the breakup. Yeah. When I was with that dentist, you know, that I was with here, the tourist that I talked about.
Oh yeah.
You know, this is a small town we are, and I was just so surprised that I had never run into her. You know, so last weekend, and she was one of those breakups that I got over because it was so bad that by the time it got to like the 8th month, I already knew that I was going to be leaving. I had left months before.
Yeah, emotionally. Yeah.
You know? So, but it was one of those things to where she said, you know what? I'm still friends with my ex on social media because I can handle it.
You told me that, yeah.
But the way I love you, I can't. So she cut me off from everything.
Because every breakup's different.
Yeah, every breakup's different. And I always wondered what would happen if we ran into each other. Oh. So finally, last Saturday, I ran into her at Miramonte.
Okay, how was it?
It was interesting. She was with her new guy or someone else she's seeing. And it was the strangest response that I didn't expect. You can tell they were having this fun-filled fairy tale type of day. Yeah. Because I've never seen her be like this. So she was like running in the tasting. You've been in there, Monty. She was running in the tasting area, laughing and joking. And she goes right by me and I go, hey, Anna. And she turned around. I mean, and she went from not like that. It went from this jovial, I'm just having this fun-filled day with my guy to, oh my God, I can't believe Imani is right here. Her whole energy literally switched. Oh. And she came over, gave me a hug, and her guy standing there like, who's this guy? And I go, hey man, how you doing?
How was her energy?
The hug was fine. She was just like, you can tell that she still likes me.
Oh, okay.
And it was just shocking to see me again. So
she's gonna be calling her. She's gonna be texting her girlfriends that night, like, guess who I ran into?
Exactly.
It's gonna be a big deal.
And then she grabbed his arm and I heard her go, that was my ex-boyfriend.
Okay.
And it just, but her whole energy changed. Yeah. And I felt kind of bad because it looked like she was having a great fun-filled day. And I would have loved for them to continue that fun day. And I hope they did if they listened.
But
you know what I'm saying?
But that's how I would be if I bumped into my ex. Because we ended
I didn't expect that response. Yeah.
I don't want to say badly. It's just so abrupt.
Yeah.
And I was so bitter for so long. That's how I would be too.
Yes. And it's been over a year. And I was still surprised. I was surprised at her response. I honestly thought it was just gonna be like, "Hey, how you doing?" And she just would walk away.
That's how I would be too. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just really surprised. I
understand it. Yeah.
Anyway, guys, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Moving on. We done?
We're done. That's it.
All right, guys. Thanks for checking in. Hopefully, you got some pointers and some tidbits about how to get through a breakup if you are going through a breakup or have gone through one.
Take time to yourself.
Take time to yourself. Grieve. It happens to all of us. You know what I mean? And what I want to say, a very healthy thing to do is not just jump into something else.
Exactly.
Give yourself time to get over it, man, because it's not going to be healthy with the new person.
Right.
With that said, don't forget to subscribe on ISENT Group Digital, and keep listening where you get your podcast. And it's Imani Shakur and Rachel K. Burke, Relationships, Romance, and Propaganda Podcast. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Bye.